5 centimeters per second is the perfect film. It's the masterpiece of Shinkai's career, and there has never been an animated film that so naturally and realistically portrayed love in the modern world. Never has there been such a film or show that ripped at my heart, filled my eyes with tears, or made me sigh, as the feeling of unbearable nostalgia washed over me. Never has there ever been a director ambitious enough to take the topic of simple love and turn it into such a complex masterpiece. So, though I've only praised the movie, you might disagree with me. Hell, there are even forums on my anime list, reviews, and comments on the YouTube video of 5 centimeters per second that are solely dedicated to trashing this movie. Yet, not even from an emotional standpoint, but from an analytical one. We're about to delve into what makes this movie perfection. But first, we have to analyze the plot of the movie. Here, I will summarize events of the entire movie while giving my own thoughts on comments made by confused viewers, or just those that didn't enjoy the movie in general. I will be addressing specific points that I read online. 5 centimeters per second follows the life of Tohno Takaki and his emotional state after being separated from his childhood love, Shinohara Akari. Told through 3 different episodes, each episode depicts another chapter of Takaki's life. Short and compelling, each episode plays with a different theme that all converge into the same overarching message, which subtexts every action and emotion in the movie: distance. We cannot talk about 5 centimeters per second without discussing how distance affected its characters and what the said distance meant to them. In an oversimplification of each episode, I will label each one with a theme. Episode 1 is about childhood love and hope. Episode 2 is about unrequited love. Episode 3 is about moving on. Now, we will begin to discuss how distance affects each part of the narrative and why the movie is such a masterpiece. Episode 1 focuses on the beginnings of Takaki and Akari's relationship, while delving into the complex emotions they felt as they slowly drifted apart. They naturally became close due to the amount of similarities they shared as children. Being more mature-minded than the others also left them feeling slightly outcast from the rest of their classmates, which heightened their bond. They were almost inseparable, as can be seen from the teasing of their classmates. This is shown to us to explain why Akari moving had such a significant impact on both of them. Basically, they had lost their emotional support in life. They had seen each other as irreplaceable, and were terrified of living life without one another, but life cruelly tore them apart. Yet, they could not stop thinking about each other, and thus Takaki receives a letter from Akari one day. Now this is important. This should shout at the audience watching the film, as it portrays Akari and Takaki's personalities in an extremely simple way. Akari was the first to write a letter. Of course, Takaki could have sent one too, but he was too timid and shy to do so. He was more self-conscious than her. The doubts had already begun here at this early stage. But her first letter erases them, at least for a while, and they are able to exchange letters and reconnect through the act. Now, I'm going to delve deeply into a portion of the movie which many people complain about without realizing its literary value. The entire segment where Tohno was stuck in the train was quite long in comparison to the other parts of the film. Most of it featured Takaki checking over his hand-drawn map over and over, or panning shots of the looming wilderness blanketed in snow, and most notably, his hands. Shinkai shows these shots the most because they all portray vivid information to the viewer. Tohno is anxious. He's still 13, and he has never left Tokyo on his own before, has never ventured far from home. Though he has probably memorized the map, he continues to look at it, confirms, and reaffirms. This shows his anxiety and nervousness, and a weak side of him. It's realistic because he is yet just a child. In turn, this lets the audience feel more sympathetic for him, even unconsciously. The wilderness shots highlight the distance Takaki must travel to meet Akari. It's a foreshadowing of the next two segments of the film. The snow represents the difficulty of allowing these childish yet pure emotions to stay without being overcome by sadness. Finally, the shots of his hands show the audience Tohno's perspective about the situation. Overcome with impatience and helplessness, he tries to look down at his feet, but in the way are his hands. His small, childish hands, which remind him over and over of his powerlessness. Many say that this section is too drawn out, yet this itself is the point. Like, you feel the irritation the same way Takaki does. You cannot wait for it to end. This is the point. Total immersion into the story and the characters. Now, the directorial execution of Akari and Tohno finally meeting, the soft music playing in the background and the crunching of snow, is masterful in every way. Both of them are a little awkward. They haven't seen each other in forever. Tohno seems lost for words. Akari's smile and hug just tugs at the heartstrings. The scene in the station is very straightforward, yet beautiful. Now, addressing another topic of confusion for a lot of viewers, we'll talk about Akari and Tohno's letters to each other. Tohno had written a letter which he planned to give to Akari, but lost it when it was swept away in the wind by the vending machine. Akari had written Tohno a letter as well, but never gave it to him, inferring from Tohno's monologue, he thought that the kiss under the tree had changed their relationship forever. Naivety that's entirely understandable for his age. So he never tells Akari about the letter, or the topic within it. Akari, however, feels the same. Their relationship has changed forever, but not in the way Tohno had thought. She looks to the future and doesn't see a realistic ending for the two of them, so she hides her letter, never giving it to Tohno. This is extremely significant for the third and last section of the movie, 5 centimeters per second, which I'll get into later. Part 2 of the movie, Cosmonaut, is relatively straightforward in my opinion. The only problem I see in comments and reviews about this section are that they wanted to see more Kanae. Shinkai realized that staying within the head of Tohno for an entire 50 minutes would stagnate the narrative, so he switches it up to the perspective of Kanae and the oh so relatable topic of unrequited love. We all feel the pain as Kanae watches Tohno longingly, who is also staring off into the sky. We've all felt that same way before, and if you haven't, you're lucky. Nothing more is shown of their relationship. For those who want a little extra of Kanae, go read the manga of 5 centimeters per second. The third and last part of 5 centimeters per second is my favorite. Here's where a lot of explaining needs to be done about why Tohno and Akari never saw each other again. Many people asked why the two stopped sending letters to each other, or how Akari was able to move on so easily. Here's what I have to say. Have you ever been in a long-distance relationship in recent years? It's gotten much easier to communicate long distances because of the internet and texting devices. But even then, physical distance almost always evokes barriers between two people, no matter how strongly they feel for one another. Now, when a message around the world takes less than 2 seconds to send, we still fail to reply, we change, we feel insecure. Imagine an era without cell phones or the internet. Takaki and Akari's childhood is set right when phones are still not mainstream, and the internet is presumably not available. Which is why Akari calls Tohno from a payphone instead of her own cell phone like you do nowadays. So, they begin sending letters to each other, but at one point in their lives, whoever it is, stopped replying due to their insecurities. Have you ever had a pen pal or online friend and you felt like you ended up bothering them by messaging them all the time? It's the same feeling, but gradually. Tohno was stuck in this emotion, still, and kept typing out emails he would never send to anyone since he did not know Akari's address. Akari held their childhood love dear in her heart, but life is not so simple. She needs to grow up and start becoming an adult instead of moping around like Tohno. And she does, and we can see her happy at the end, or at least the illusion of happiness. Meanwhile, Tohno quits his job and fails to make any significant relationships. So the answer to the question is, no, Akari did not move on so easily. Try waiting 20 years for your first love. It's almost impossible. Stupid, even, some might say. This is why Akari never gave him the letter from the first episode. She understands this. She is looking at reality. A lot of people were also confused by the ending of the movie, or didn't think it was conclusive enough. Yet the ending was in fact an utterly perfect one, which might not make sense as nothing actually happens. The thing is, that's the entire premise. Delving into Tohno's feelings the entire movie, he can't move on from Akari. His heart is stuck in the past, and this leaves him depressed, unable to commit into deep relationships later on, as shown by him ignoring calls from his current girlfriend. The ending resolves this. He walks through the cherry blossoms once again. He walks down the street they had when they were kids. He crosses the train tracks, catches a glimpse of her, maybe smells her perfume, but he's still unsure. By the time he's past the crossing, he looks back to see if Akari is somehow there, turning slowly, waiting for that dream to become reality. Just like the beginning, when they were kids, a train passes by. But this time, she isn't there when the train is finally gone. Just the hum of blossoms in the wind. He realizes this. He gives a small smile. He understands that she's moved on, and that she's telling him to move on as well. And now he's free. "5 centimeters per second isn't your typical movie. It's not a Hollywood film we're all so used to watching, melodrama and all. There isn't much action, dialogue is minimal, and most of the story is shown through the characters' monologues. The pacing isn't lightning fast, like most anime out today. It slows itself down for the viewers to sink into the beautiful scenery and think about the short bits of dialogue and monologue, what they really mean. If you watch the movie, listen to my analysis, and still don't like it or thought the movie was boring, move on. Or go watch Shinkai's new movie, Your Name, which I also did an analysis of on this channel. Your Name is a much more accessible movie, and it follows more common tropes of anime while retaining the beautiful art and music that Shinkai is known for. In the end, 5 centimeters per second is a movie that will stay with me for the rest of my life. It's something I hold as the gold standard for storytelling, portraying a message and captivating an audience's emotions. Shinkai has created a masterpiece of raw human emotion, the kind of film you'll likely only see once in a lifetime.